Tonight, Boris Johnson bites back as Conservative MPs who want the Prime Minister to quit say they're being blackmailed and intimidated.
I've seen no evidence, heard no evidence to support any of those allegations.
Also making the headlines, will Scotland's school pupils be sitting exams this year? The Education Secretary tells STV News contingency plans are in place as opposition parties say pupils and teachers need clarity.
In sport, Andy Murray casts doubt on coming back to the Australian Open ever again.
Scotland today and STV. I watch that every night if I can. I love it.
And meet an STV News superfan, Edna, who's almost 101 years young. I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. Nicola Sturgeon says an independent inquiry should be launched into allegations Tory MPs who want the Prime Minister to resign are being blackmailed. One senior Conservative, William Wragg, is urging his colleagues to contact the police if they are threatened with bad publicity or cuts to funding for their constituencies as a result.
But Boris Johnson says there's no evidence to support these accusations against his ministers, advisers and staff. Mr Johnson is facing an attempt from some Tory MPs to oust him as leader over lockdown parties held in Downing Street. Our Westminster correspondent Catherine Sampson reports.
As Boris Johnson continues to fight back against parts of his own party, a fresh blow today from one of the Tory MPs who's already called for the Prime Minister to go.
In recent days, a number of members of Parliament have faced pressures and intimidation from members of the government because of their declared or assumed desire for a vote of confidence in the party leadership of the Prime Minister. The reports of which I'm aware would seem to constitute blackmail.
Most seriously, he claims government whips who enforce discipline have threatened to withdraw funding from MPs' constituencies. The Prime Minister wanted to focus on COVID today, but was forced to answer questions on this.
Are those tactics being used to try to stop MPs speaking out against you?
I've seen no evidence, heard no evidence to support any of those allegations.
But this MP, who defected from the Conservatives to join Labour, claims it happened to him.
I was threatened that I would not get the score for Radcliffe if I didn't vote one particular way. This is a town that's not had a high school for the best part of 10 years.
At Holyrood, the First Minister said she found these allegations shocking.
Intimidation, bullying, blackmail and using public money to do it is the allegation. I would suggest that these accusations need to be fully and crucially independently investigated. You know, with every day right now, Boris Johnson is tarnishing the office of Prime Minister, and I think if he has concerns for the interests of the country, he will go.
The Scottish Conservatives leader Douglas Ross described a robust exchange of opinions when he told Boris Johnson he should go, but says nobody has tried to intimidate him.
Well, clearly Will Wragg has spoken to colleagues who have a different experience to me, and they're serious allegations, and I'm sure they'll be investigated.
Are you disappointed hearing them?
Well, of course. I think anyone in the Conservative Party would be disappointed to hear these allegations, and it's right that they're properly investigated.
But at Westminster, one former whip suggests William Wragg is overreacting.
When he said that complaints should be made to the police, I just thought to myself, oh, come on. I mean, if you were doing that every time a whip sort of, I wouldn't say even threatened, but sort of tried to cajole you to vote in a particular way, boy, the police wouldn't have any spare time to really fight crime.
And time ticks on as Westminster waits for the findings of a report into Downing Street parties and the fallout to come.
So, Catherine, where does all this leave the Prime Minister tonight?
Well, look, after surviving an extraordinary week here at Westminster, today could have been a bit of a lull in the pressure that is on the Prime Minister. Instead, Downing Street gets involved in this fresh row right before Tory MPs leave here to once again go back to their constituencies over the weekend and face angry voters. Everyone still thinks the defining moment in this does not come until next week when Sue Gray, the civil servant, releases her report into allegations of Downing Street parties. Some MPs say they genuinely want to wait to see what that says. Others say they've made their minds up already and see it as a trigger.
We'll hear more from you next week, Catherine. Thank you.
Now, staffing in the care sector has been feeling the squeeze for some time, with the effects of Brexit and the pandemic taking their toll. But now a report says any chance of recovery is being put at risk by the Scottish Government.
Audit Scotland have found a lack of leadership from Holyrood is resulting in too few people seeking training to gain the required skills. The report finds ambitious targets are unlikely to be met. Sasha Spratt reports.
Preparing for a new career can be daunting and exciting. These students are learning the skills they need to get jobs in the care sector. But the number of people signing up to courses like these dropped by 50% last year.
I think a lot of people they don't know what they could do, or even they might find it it seems quite difficult to try and get into the care environment. They're there might be so many things that they might need to do, but it's not.
Because I work as an informal care indicator, I saw the payback that I get, that I can see that I'm making people's lives a bit easier and I'm helping them. The payback's better for me than the salary or that.
The Scottish Government is being pulled up on its lack of leadership in making sure Scotland has the workforce it needs right now and in the future. It's failing to get enough people into training courses, gaining crucial skills.
This is a sector which is a massive contributor to the Scottish economy. We have seen a greater appreciation resulting in greater action and more focus, but there is a long way before we get to a situation where all of us recognise the job of care as highly skilled and as professional.
We're also not training enough people in IT or new green industries, things like electric car maintenance. The report by Audit Scotland found commitment to skills planning set out in 2017 are not being met. Skills Development Scotland and the Scottish Funding Council aren't able to agree on plans, and current arrangements will not meet ambitions to make sure Scotland has people with the skills for the jobs that need to be filled.
The agencies and the Scottish Government itself haven't made progress in assessing whether the £2 billion of spending that takes place on skills planning is delivering the intended benefits.
The Scottish Government say the report is welcomed and progress is being made, but recognise more has to be done to meet targets. Sasha Spratt, STV News.
Now, 2022 should be the year Scotland's students get back to exams, according to the Education Secretary. Shirley-Ann Somerville told STV News, although no guarantees can be given, contingency plans are in place.
But Conservative MSPs and some parents are calling for a cast iron guarantee. They say that will spare student and teacher distress. Here's our political reporter, Laura Alderman.
The ones with the calculators are the ones with...
14-year-old Mackenzie has been studying hard for her prelims, but one question she doesn't have the answer to yet is if final exams will go ahead, something she would like to see happen.
If your prelim one's bad, then you won't have a chance, because it's your first time as well, so then you wouldn't know.
They need to make a decision really within, I would say, the next couple of weeks, I think, and they need to make clear and concise communications out to everybody.
After 2 years of cancellations, some senior pupils will have never sat an exam before, and many are keen to do so.
So with everyone sitting exams, it becomes like a very fair playing ground for everyone.
Having exams is really important because it gives us information about how good we are in pressurised situations.
Last year we all did the tests throughout the year and they all became very important, so the whole year became very stressful.
I think sometimes basing your grade off what people do in class, so the teacher won't actually always know the pupils that well.
Even if schools are able to have exams go ahead in the spring, there's mounting concerns about the number of staff absences due to COVID, which is currently at its highest level since the start of this school session.
It's a very disrupted year
and that creates pressure for teachers and for pupils. But schools are doing their very best to make sure that young people are prepared for these exams. Teachers and pupils, I think, can plan with confidence that the exam diet will take place as scheduled.
But that's not enough for opposition parties.
It doesn't appear that the Scottish Government has a total grip of the contingencies that they say that they have in place. I mean, we've heard nothing about, for example, community spaces, should pupils need to distance to take the exams.
Unfortunately, the virus doesn't allow for us to give many cast iron guarantees in education or elsewhere. So what we can reassure staff and pupils on is that we are absolutely determined that exams will take place. The only reason that they would change is if there was a change in the public health guidance.
Prelims are seen as practice for the real thing. Anyone doing them this year can only hope they don't end up being the only exams they sit. Laura Alderman, STV News.
Other stories across Scotland, and restrictions for care home residents are easing. People moving into a care home no longer have to isolate for 2 weeks as long as they've had a negative PCR in the last 48 hours. Isolation for residents testing positive has been cut from 14 to 10 days.
Police investigating claims of spiking by injection say they found no forensic evidence to support the allegations. A number of people came forward last year to say they'd been drugged on a night out and found puncture marks on their skin. In February last year, Musselburgh teenager Aiden Hogg was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia and faced the prospect of never walking again due to damage the cancer had caused to his spine.
After almost a year in Edinburgh's Sick Kids Hospital undergoing treatment and rehabilitation, Laura Boyd joined Aiden and his family to see how far he's come.
Just days after this fun-filled footage was taken, Aiden Hogg was rushed to hospital, unable to walk. Tests led to a diagnosis of leukemia and an extra blow that left him in shock.
They basically said that I might not actually walk again because there was so much damage done to the nerves that none of the nerves might actually come back. That probably hit me the hardest, and it really quite upset me more than the cancer thing, just because I had cancer and then I had that on top of it as well, so it was pretty hard.
We covered Aiden's story at the time, and back then it was unclear as to what his future would hold.
Oh, he's up straight away.
9 months in hospital, 4 blocks of chemotherapy, and sheer grit and determination later. This is the 16-year-old now.
I was like, nah, I need to just do my physio and just push myself as much as I can, and I will actually walk out of this place, and I got there eventually. So.
The first time he ever moved on his legs, and I was so lucky to be there to see that, and it was just very slight movement. And I remember even his oncology consultant had came into the room and I'd taken a video and he asked to see it, and he got upset and I was upset, happy tears. And even when Aidan was at his most weakest and the most sick and really ill for the chemo, he still done his physio every day.
Aidan's rehabilitation will continue, but he wanted to say a special thank you to 2 of the many people who have supported him.
Yeah, when I got diagnosed, Callum Beattie and his manager Dave reached out to me, and I think he must have already had a song written called Warrior. He dedicated it to me. It was nice, and he got GoFundMe started to raise money to help us out and stuff, so everything he's done really has helped, and his manager Dave as well, they've been great.
Hi Aiden, it's Callum Beattie here, mate. I hope you're very well. Listen, we all knew you would walk again, and we're also very proud of you. Keep up the great work, pal.
Laura Boyd, STV News.
And there's more good news, just like Aiden's story, on Scotland Tonight here on STV at 7:30.
A new metro system could become a reality in Glasgow after a Scottish Government report recommended plans continue to be developed. A strategic transport project review is setting out potential investment across Scotland over the next 2 decades. Well, Oli Dickinson has been looking through the plans and joins us now. So, Oli, what are some of the recommendations it's making?
Well, John, there are things in there like a commitment to replace some of CalMac's ferries by 2045, decarbonising them in the process. There'll be no need for ferries for one of the proposals, though. That's to examine the possibility of building a bridge or a tunnel between the Isle of Mull and the mainland. There's also things in there like an integrated single travel ticket plan, a bit like the Oyster card system that we would see in London. However, remember, we've heard that before in Glasgow, and obviously we're still waiting to see that system in place here. It also mentions significant infrastructure projects, things like finding an alternative route for the A83 around the Rest and Be Thankful. You've got to remember that's a road that's plagued by things like landslips and flooding, meaning there's often a big diversion or you have to use the old military road. And then there's the much talked about Clyde Metro that you mentioned at the beginning. It's a light rail network that the government believes could extend around 15 kilometres across the city and connect 1.5 million people. However, opposition parties today, they claim that that document was heavy on ideas but light on cash, light on dates. Here's what they had to say about the Metro project.
The difference it could make to people's and communities' lives in the Clyde area is huge.
Now, I like the sound of city metro systems, but there's zero in this to say how and when they'll be achieved.
Having cancelled not one but two Glasgow Airport rail links in the past 14 years, why should communities believe the Cabinet Secretary when he says that sometime in the next 20 years we might build a Glasgow Metro?
So, Oli, what happens next?
Well, there'll now be a 12-week consultation period. After that, there'll be a delivery document produced. That'll give us those crucial dates for when we can expect to begin to see things. However, we've got to remember this is a 20-year plan, so we could be waiting a little while to see any of those ideas become reality.
Oli, thank you. Well, it's a full studio tonight, or is that a studio of... we'll just leave it there. Raman, the sport.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sports, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
I know what you meant. Good evening. Andy Murray says he's really disappointed and very frustrated following his straight sets defeat to Taro Daniel in the second round of the Australian Open. It's the first time Murray has lost to a player ranked outside the top 100 at a slam. The former world number one cast doubt if he'll be back down under next year, admitting it's not much fun losing this early in a major tournament. Ronnie Charters reports.
After his gruelling 5-set win in the opening round, Andy Murray faced an opponent ranked 120th in the world. In the early stages, the former world number one showed signs of rustiness.
Oh, what a disappointing way to drop serve.
With Japanese qualifier Taro Daniel breaking Murray twice in the first set.
A superb combination of plays.
Before serving out to win by 6-4.
That brilliant first set.
Daniel picked up where he left off in the second set, controlling the court and dictating most rallies.
Stunning.
An early break helped the qualifier take control of the match. He was soon 2 sets up. Murray got the crowd on their feet in the third as he went 2 games to the good.
Murray has the break early in the third.
But again, errors from the Scot and winners from his opponent were his undoing.
And Murray gets broken.
And not long after...
And isn't that smart?
A straight sets defeat and a far cry from his opening round display.
I'm really, really disappointed. Very frustrated. And yeah, tough loss for me. You know, this is a really important year for me for a number of reasons, and I want to perform well in the big events, and for me tonight is not good enough.
Now aged 34, the question many are now asking is for how much longer will we see the 3-time Grand Slam champion on the big stage? Ronnie Charters, STV News.
Giovanni Van Bronkos admits being without Alfredo Morelos for next month's Old Firm clash is not ideal, but believes his squad will cope. Morelos has been called up by Colombia for the World Cup qualifiers. He scored 4 goals in Rangers' last 6 league games, but soon Alfredo Morelos will be unavailable for the Ibrox club. The striker is one of a number of players who are set to be away on international duty, meaning he won't face Celtic next month.
That's what you want, but it's the way it is. You know, if you have international games during the league, it always gives you a difficult situation. He's been in really good form, especially the last months. For me, when I came in, I think he had a great development in every aspect of the games.
Rangers host Stirling Albion in the Scottish Cup tomorrow. They go into the match on the back of a 1-1 draw against Aberdeen in the league. Ryan Kent was sent off for the champions at Pittodrie after receiving 2 yellow cards.
If I look back, especially the second yellow, for me also is quite a yellow for the red card. I think it's very, very harsh for him. Ryan, he tries to block the ball. I don't think he cut the player, on speed or really, really hard.
Kemar Roof is available for tomorrow's cup clash. Scott Arfield and Stephen Davis are set to return to the squad next week. Carl Starfelt says Celtic players are hungry for more trophies after winning the League Cup last month. The Parkhead side begin their Scottish Cup journey away to Alloa at the weekend, and the defender says the squad is in a good place.
One of the reasons many players come here and they come to this club in the hope to win stuff, and now we won our first trophy here, so of course we are hungry for more, and it's the best feeling to win games, but especially to win trophies.
Just got time to give you some golf news, and Scott Jamieson is the clubhouse leader on the opening day of the Dubai Championship.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sports, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Let's get the weather now with Sean.
Today's outlook is becoming more and more unsettled. TUI Blue Hotels, sponsor STV Weather.
Well, a chilly old day out there today, warmer air in the Atlantic, high pressure centred to the west of Ireland. Now look at the airflow, I've popped the wind arrows on for you, can see the wind going round in a clockwise direction, so colder air on this side of the high, warmer air here as we go back into a west to southwesterly airflow. But as I've been saying all week, as we go back into that milder air, like last week, it means a return of cloud and some outbreaks of rain, that sort of miserable, dark weather. It's going to be that way through most of the weekend. Now, for the time being, we still hang on to good clear spells. Central and southern parts of here will be frosty through most of the night, but the temperature's rising ever so slightly later on as that cloud starts to spread in from the west. But tomorrow morning, at least, we should still have some sunny spells, especially around the likes of Lanarkshire, Stirlingshire, towards Falkirk, West Lothian. Thicker cloud in the west, but that cloud through the day will be slowly moving its way eastward. So for many of us, a rather cloudy into the afternoon. The cloud thick enough for some shower outbreaks of rain across the Hebrides. But look at the temperatures tomorrow. We're back up to 7, maybe 10 degrees, parts of the Hebrides, 50 degrees in Fahrenheit. And the temperature's staying roughly the same as we go through Saturday and Sunday. But look, once again for us, we've got those darker clouds, the shower outbreaks of rain. Nothing overly heavy, but just quite damp on and off. The best of the brightness through the weekend in the east. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels, sponsor STV Weather.
And finally, a pensioner from Glasgow has received more than 4,500 cards after an appeal to make her 101st birthday extra special.
Edna Clayton spent her centenary birthday alone due to lockdown restrictions and didn't even receive a letter from the Queen due to an administrative error. But this year her birthday has become a lot more exciting after care home staff came up with an elaborate plan. Polly Bartlett joined the party.
Overwhelmed beyond words. Beautiful. Never had anything like it in my life.
Sometimes the kindness of strangers can be overwhelming.
This comes from Arizona in America.
Edna Clayton doesn't have much family and spent her last birthday alone in lockdown. So this year, thousands and thousands of strangers have stepped in.
What can I say to all of you? I'm very, very grateful. Very thankful.
Care home staff wanted to make Edna's 101st birthday special, so they appealed online for people to send in cards. But no one expected this.
Before I knew it, it was viral. It went worldwide. We're sitting at about 4,500 cards just now. Our postman's already told us that there's a second van coming today.
Cards and presents have arrived from all over the world, and messages from celebrities too.
Happy 101st birthday. 101st birthday.
Edna joined the army in the Second World War and has lived through 25 prime ministers and now a global pandemic. So, on the eve of her 101st birthday, she shared her secret to a long life.
I'm delighted to be alive. That's all something, isn't it? Get on with it. For another 100 years.
Edna says she doesn't like a fuss and is planning a quiet birthday.
Never had anything like this in my life. Really not. Television, watching it in Scotland Today and STV. I watch that every night if I can. I love it. I just sit there and watch you all. Tell me all the news about Glasgow. I just love STV and Scotland Today.
And John Mackay. John Mackay.
Who's that?
Oh, you're not having a good week, John, are you? 1 minute you're being called Potato Face, and the next not even lovely Edna knows who you are.
The thing is, I've been doing this nearly as long as Edna's been watching it. But anyway, happy birthday, Edna. And
yes,
thank you for
birthday.
watching. Have a good night.
Good night.